This is the Place Saint-Lambert. We're in Belgium, we're down in the Ardennes, a very different area indeed to where the normal Classics of Flanders take place. I'm Phil Liggett and without Paul Sherwin on this occasion, so welcome along. Alejandro Valverde here, who's won this race once before, and Cadel Evans, all signing in for the 94th edition of Liege-Bastogne-Liege, a race which started, by the way, back in 1892. It is the oldest of the professional classics. It's not the oldest classic in the world, that's Paris-Rouen, but that's contested these days by amateur cyclists, or elite class riders, I guess. The world champion for the last 2 years and the defending Olympic champion this year when we go to Beijing in China for the Olympic Games is Paolo Bettini signing in there, also Damiano Cunego. A good chance now to see the riders who could well be appearing as the stars of the upcoming Tour de France, because the one-day tough cobble classics of the north are now replaced by the hills here on the west side of Belgium, not very far away from the borders with Germany and indeed with the Netherlands down in Maastricht. And the man who's been the king of the Ardennes in 2004, that was him, David Rebellin. Maxime Montfort, Belgian rider for Cofidis. A young man, they say, with a big future. Well, maybe it'll start today. Philippe Gilbert, a rider on a French team, but very much a Belgian, and the race virtually going past his front door here in the Ardennes. He'll have a lot of people out to support him over the next few days of racing, because remember, we've already had Flèche Wallonne, and now this really is the last of the classics before we start to go into the smaller stage races like the Tour of Romandy, onto the Tour de Suisse, and then, of course, via the Giro d'Italia to the Tour de France. So a lot on offer, chance for us all to be guided through to see what form there is. Just on 200 riders leaving the Place Saint-Lambert. Traditional journey as we head south to Bastogne and then head back up to the finish in Anse. There's some of the most recent winners for you, some famous names, some in disgrace these days, others not. Last year's winner not here, Danilo De Luca. Tarnished reputation at the moment for Danilo, and as a result of that the organisation didn't want his team here. LPR breaks. Alejandro Valverde, the last man to defend, is in the race today. He won it 2 years ago. Beautiful roads, totally different roads this to the cobbled north indeed. 261 kilometres, about 160 plus miles, and the route, as I say, not too many hills as we go south to Bastogne, only 2 of the 12 climbs, but then they come thick and fast all the way back. And the new climb, which riders are saying is very hard, is number 11, the Côte de la Roche-aux-Faucons, coming very near the finish. So the riders will establish now 4 riders clear. There's been a number of attacks before we get down to the live pictures. There are the 4 riders in the lead as we now rejoin the action. They built a lead of over 11 minutes at one stage, but at this point in time it's just 6:29 ahead. Let's go to the action. And looking down from the helicopter here, this is the peloton, and as you can see, 84 kilometres still to run of the 261. And yes, of course, that breakaway is clear, but it's been reduced now from 11 minutes maximum to just over 4.5 minutes. And the peloton now know, as they return north towards the finish in Anse, which is on the backside of Belgium, that the riders here now want to close down this attack. The 4 riders who are clear: Markus Foten, the German rider on Gerolsteiner, Tom Stubber from the FDJ.com team, Pierre Roland, Crédit Agricole, here they are, Pavel Brut from Tinkoff, and David Kopp of Kohlschop. These are the riders who are in the lead, but already gone now. One of the riders dropped earlier on. This is the Côte du Stocco, which is coming near the mid-turn. There's still a lot of climbs to come. This is taking us through 178.5 kilometres covered. And these boys have worked well together. The breakaway getting away fairly early on. Tom Stubber is the rider, is no longer here. But the breakaway going after a number of attacks and a very vigilant peloton. It finally went after only 24 kilometres into the day. So they were setting themselves what would seem an impossible target here, to hold the field off for such a long way. But they've worked well together and deserve their advantage. The peloton seem to have this monitored. Been no attacks at all from the fancied favourites, but they've made sure their teams have kept the chase together well. And they know too that with the big climb of La Redoute still to come, the unknown climb of La Roche-aux-Faucons, which riders say is hard, 4:15 on the blackboard there, in fact. So it's continuing to come down. And then we come to the Côte de Saint-Nicolas, which is the last official côte, should we say, of Liège-Bastogne-Liège on the other side of the river, taking us up towards the finish in Anse. But of course, anybody that knows this course knows there's a nasty little climb, brings the riders virtually up to the last kilometre. And that's not listed amongst the climbs. Otherwise it would be unlucky for some 13th climb of the day. Well, I have to say this is turning out to be the nicest day of the year so far. That's Bertagnoli, the Italian from Liege, sat at the back here, but this looks like a group that's beginning to split away the wrong way. Laurens ten Dam also dropping off there. Scarzelli. Meanwhile, back at the front, these are the four riders who are climbing pretty well. Pierre Roland, the young boy, is only 21 years of age, Roland, of Crédit Agricole. Another name. The French are saying this year that they're riding better because so many riders they believe now are not taking drugs. And as a result, the French have always said it's because of drug taking their riders have performed poorly. I think a little bit of poetic license there, but even so, it is a fact. The French are doing pretty well right now. Pavel Brut there pushing on for the King of the Ardennes title. Points at the top of every climb. And as you can see, these roads are idyllic for world-class bike racing, and indeed for the tourists to come out and enjoy too, because the Ardennes doesn't have any cobblestones. Beautiful agricultural narrow roads, often through the forest. And well worth a visit if you're ever thinking about it. This looks like David Kopp here. Had a bad crash in Milan-San Remo last year, but he seems to have recovered from that now. Once rode on the same team as Jan Ulrich, but found he couldn't be the team leader, and he's not a bad sprinter. He left the team for a smaller German team. He's won quite a lot of races. He's actually a very fast sprinter. But just at the moment, they're more interested in holding this lot together, I think. Stavelot. There is, in fact, a randonnée or a tourist cyclo-routier event in this area. It covers the same course, but it starts in Tilth instead of Liège. So it's a slightly shorter route and goes Tilth-Bastogne-Tilth, and it's well worth riding if you ever fancy it. You go over virtually all of these climbs on the return back to Tilth. And the finish in the town square there. It's a wonderful day out because the Belgians turn out to watch it, even though it's not a bike race. It's just a ride for the hopefuls of the future, or the ones that carry long memories of the past. I don't know. That was the model there of Eddy Merckx, who won this race 5 times, the King of the Ardennes for short. And it looks as though Case Depart have put riders on the front here now with AG2R, and also Cadel Evans' squad is up there. Cadel himself is up there right now. Just keeping an eye on things here. Paolo Bettini, little cricket tucked in his World Championship jersey, about 5 men down. Perfect course for him, Paolo Bettini. This is where he established his original reputation when he won Liège for the first time. He jumped onto the telephone and called his mate, and he was already the champion of the Ardennes. Michele Bartoli wasn't riding that day, and Paolo won it. That was back in the year 2000. He also went on to win a stage of the Tour de France, finished 4th in Paris Tours, and he then 9th in the World Championship, which he's, of course, we now know he was going to win for 2 successive years, last year and the year before. I can also see David Miller down there in the British Champions jersey, red, white and blue, tucked in. Shows a good wheel there on Bettini. Miller says he's riding these events purely because he's training for the upcoming Giro d'Italia. But in fairness, he's riding very, very well. New colours for David this year with the Slipstream Chipotle squad. These are the giants of the Ardennes, taking an interest in the breakaway here. The breakaway under pressure now. 4:05, 81, just on 50 miles still to run. The peloton, though, on these narrow roads, you see, teammates can either do a good job blocking off the whole race or pushing on at the front. And that seems to be what's happening just at the moment. Team Milram at the back here. Dominique Roels, the German rider. I think it's the first time he's ridden Liege, Bastogne, Liege. He suddenly realised it gets quite hilly towards the end. Once you've been in the saddle for 4.5, 5 hours, your legs really begin to hurt on these constant climbs, and they're very steep. They're only short, but they are very steep. They vary from 1 in 10, in the case of La Redoute, 1 in 4, 25%. Silence Lotto put their riders to the front as well. The red banded jersey down there, by the way, is Christian Fanberger, the champion of Austria. And Christian has opened his season well this year because Barlow World, his sponsors, are basically a South African setup. They raced in the Giro del Capo, the Tour of the Cape, in around the area of Cape Town. Beautiful roads, beautiful country, South Africa. And Fanberger won that race, leading from start to finish. Won the first stage down into the very hot town of Wellington, one of the hottest places in South Africa. And it looks as though we've got in a spot of bother now for David Kopp. He's been hanging in for quite a long time on these climbs, and it's hurting right now as the gap continues to drop. He'll recover this time, I think. Nice applause from the Belgian people here. They just love all cycle racing, but the classics draw the crowds out like no other event. You can trace this one back to 1892, although the results are a little bit vague, but certainly we're holding this event back in 1892. That's Marcus Foten from Gerolsteiner. His brother, by the way, currently riding in the Tour of Georgia in the United States. Foten was a white jersey leader in the Tour de France a couple of years ago when he had a real good battle with Damiano Cunego, who's back in the peloton just now. And Cunego cleaned up in the penultimate time trial, and that was the white jersey for him in the Tour de France. And it wouldn't surprise me because Cunego is not riding in the Giro d'Italia this year, so he's going to look forward to a crack at the Tour de France yellow jersey. I suppose the best victory for Foten is a win in the stage 1 of the Tour of Romandy last year. And one day Pavel Brut's going to win something big. This man never knows when not to attack. In the yellow there. He's gritting his teeth at the moment though, sitting at the back wheel of Pierre Rolland. Well, we say 3:50. The board on the motorbike, I think, said 4 minutes exactly, but it takes him a little while to get organised because he'll have to go back and tell the peloton the time gap as well. Haven't quite got the privilege of seeing television at this point as we have. Here's David Kopp, and is he going to make a big effort? I think he is. He's going to either swan along in no man's land till he's picked up, or he's going to go for it. The Côte de Haute-Levée is at 184 kilometres covered. This is Stavelot for the peloton. So they've come over the Côte de Stocker and they're heading down through Stavelot now in a long, long line. So we'll shortly see the leaders, I would think, on the climb of Haute-Levée. Peloton looking a little bit angry down there now, and as I say, it's a beautiful day. Everybody's going to feel like racing today, I would think. This is poor old David Kopp. New colours there for the Kohlstrop team this year. David himself is now 29 years of age, turned pro back in 2002, and he's ridden pretty well. 12th place finish in Paris-Roubaix. That looks like somebody just left the course. That's enough. There's a shortcut back home here. And there he goes down to the left. Didn't quite catch who it was. Looked like a rider from AG2R who decided enough was enough. What little wind there is there, pushing the peloton across to the right-hand side now as they start the climb here of Haute-Levée. 3.4 kilometres, quite a long climb this, and as you can see, quite a nice angle of ascent. Vanberger looking as though he's quite interested in a good result today as he rides on second wheel. Well, the Belgian fans are amazing, aren't they? They've walked all the way up the climb of the Haute-Levée to sit on the reservation here. They know all the riders, first name terms with them. It's a super country to come live and ride a bike in. And this looks like the push has now begun, coming up to 3.5 minutes, inside 80 to go. And we've still got to come the Côte du Rossier, the Côte de la Vecquet, the Côte de la Redoute, the Côte de Sprimont, the Côte de la Roche au Fausson, and the Côte de Saint-Nicolas. All of them will hurt and shed off a few more from the back. Look at that peloton now, just daylight between the wheels. Almost 200 today starting. Looks like Christophe Lemervel, Tour de France rider at the back here in the hot seat. And one of the wildcard entries, Top Sport Flandern, number 158. That was Frederic Verkelen, and the Belgian riders having a chance today. Vanberger, you see he's a climber, zip undone, concentrating on the hills. David Kopp won't give up, will he? And I think he's going to get back. They can't afford to wait for him if they still nurture any hope of getting to the finish, so he's going to have to race himself back in, and by the time he gets on, he'll be going off the back again, I think. It's going to be a tough one. A couple of wins from last year, including a stage of the Tour of Poland, which is these days is a Pro Tour event. And a couple of years ago, he was second in Ghent-Wevelgem. Race really I thought he might have won on that occasion with his sprint finish. Came over to Gerolsteiner after he served his apprenticeship with Wiesenhof, and before that he returned pro for T-Mobile. Well, no matter how good you are at cycling, there's no shortcut to the pain if you want to succeed, and it's been a long time out front for David Kopp. He was the original attacker, Kopp was, and they got those 5 riders together originally after only 24 kilometres. Then we lost Tom Stubber fairly early for Tom. These 4 have been terrific together, and with 3.5 minutes and 78 kilometres to go, they will get caught. We're under no illusion. So for those of you training on the turbos, just keep your head down, keep sweating. You're not going to miss much for a couple of minutes. The peloton feel as though so far they're internally racing. They're just watching each other here. They're showing no real concern for that breakaway. It'll come back of its own volition at the latest, I would think, by La Redoute. Pavel Brut here may not agree with me because he's riding pretty strongly just now. Tinkoff Credit Systems. Until he came out of the small professional teams in Russia itself, he used to ride for Lokomotiv before he came across to Tinkoff. But he's a very strong rider. He's going to land something big sooner or later, I'm sure of that. He's only 26 years of age, and he's notched 16 career wins, but most of those were races in Russia, as well as he got a stage of the Tour de Langkawi last year by a breakaway just before the end, and he powered away from the breakaway and won the day. He's an opportunist rider, a bit like Vyacheslav Yekimov was. Didn't pack the big sprint, but he packed the top end speed that others couldn't keep up. Team High Road there having a great start to their new season. That's Scott Davis. Brother Alan is on a smaller team at the moment. Was part of the Discovery setup. Seems to have got embroiled in the Operation Puerto, and nobody seems to want to employ him, although he's never ever been entangled with drug accusations. So I feel a bit sorry for Alan Davis just now, but Brother Scott's riding today. You can always see nobody interested in pushing the pace, just good tempo riding. Champion of Italy in the centre, Giovanni Visconti. CSC have a terrifically strong team here, led by Frank Schleck, who's ridden well here a year ago in the event. Well, even Belgium and the beautiful countryside has its scars, and that's one of them down there on the right. Haute Levée, under the banner for the leaders. And David Kopp now settling back in and straight up there, look. Pierre Rolland. Best claim to victory was a third place on stage 3 of Paris-Nice this year. David Kopp saying to Pavel, I don't know what language you're talking, possibly German actually, because the Russians quite frequently speak German. I don't think David Kopp can be accused of shying away from the work rate, but I think he's probably very tired now. Paolo Bettini dropped back into the caboose back there, checking on everybody. And this is an attack by Pierre Rolland, sensing now the impetus is going from the breakaway. He's about to liven it up again. He really is a very strong young boy. And Crédit Agricole leave the sport this year, which is a great shame because from a commentator's viewpoint, of course, with those colours you can never fail to pick out the riders. Stands out in the peloton, the green and white of Crédit Agricole. It's been a great team run by Serge Boucherie and Roger Liege. Although Serge always been around English riders for many years, and English-speaking riders, he still speaks no English. But he certainly appreciates the Anglophones. And they've always put a lot of them on the team, including Chris Boardman, because before it was Crédit Agricole, it was Gant, the insurance company, but the same team management. Looks like Cadel Evans decided he wants to see if we can start closing this gap down. He's got his team on the front here. Silence Lotto. Mario Wirtz, Christophe Brandt, Dario Cioni's riding. He's an Italian, but he was born in Reading in the west of England and not far away from London Heathrow Airport. But he doesn't remember because he went very quickly with his mum over to Italy. So he's very much an Italian really, although his English is excellent. And also down there too is Jaroslav Popovic. We saw him signing in earlier. New colours for him, and he will be invaluable this year to Cadel Evans. I think Silence Lotto were wrong to let Chris Horner go. He was also a great man alongside Cadel in last year's Tour de France. Chris Horner's moved across to Astana because a little bit of hassle with the salary, I think, and Chris wasn't waiting to find out. I'm just looking here, the champion of France at the moment, Christophe Moreau. Change of teams for him. Agritubble is now his team. And Marcus Fulton still looking quite cool there. Chance for David to recuperate. Pavel very keen on getting David to come through, but as I said, he's not shirking his duties for sure. Well, they're riding on those heavy gears right now. That's not going to be very good. Pavel drops back, leaves a gap. Now they've got to chase it down, because that certainly was not an attack by David Kopp. 74 kilometres left to ride now. Meanwhile, back in the bunch, that was Popovic himself on the pacemaking there to try and start to close it down with his other strong teammate, Jurgen van den Broek. Ex-teammates on Team Discovery Channel, now riding on Silence Lotto. Doing well, the boys now, 3:20. They're not really slicing into that lead, and they're not hanging about either down there. Look at the length of that peloton. Through the pine forests of the Ardennes. Teammates just shuffling the pack a little bit down there, I think. Well, if you like statistics, by the way, the Belgians have won this race more than anybody else. Not always the case, the host nation's on top, but it is certainly in Liege, Bastogne, Liege. They've won it 57 times for Belgium, out of a possible 93. Everybody wise here now. After racing so long, it's time to just keep taking a little bit of food. And he said alcohol, and a little bit of food in, and plenty to drink, energy drinks, because the big climbs are just around the corner now. This little bit of a dead patch of the race, a long straight road here, but that'll depress the peloton if they can't see the breakaway, and they shouldn't at 3 minutes 20 seconds. But it is a difficult piece of road here. Long, boring and dead straight. Boy, Telecom trying to break up the race a little bit now. And the move here has come from Thomas Voigtler himself, I think. Yeah, I didn't recognise him when he's taking it on food there, pulling the face. Man that made his name, racing against Lance Armstrong, holding on to that yellow jersey by a few seconds, that wonderful day in the Alps. And he certainly made a few friends that day, and he's lived on that ever since. Very popular rider in France. And of course a rider who will be dreaming again of more Tour glory in the month of July. Riding pretty well. He won the overall Circuit de la Sarthe this year without winning the stage. And overall he's notched somewhere in the region of 22 road race victories as well. Now he's got 45 miles or 72 kilometers to run. Well, he could be forgiven for thinking you were in any country except Belgium right now. As you look over this beautiful stretch of the course here, this is the Ardennes. And even when the race and the roads aren't closed, you can ride your bike around this area, you know, and once you're away from the main arteries, you won't see much traffic at all. Plenty of guest houses, pubs and cafes for you to take time out in or stay the night. Providing you like chips, of course, because it is Belgium after all. And still the work being done here by Van den Broek rather. Looks as though Thomas has got himself some friends up here right now. The Liquigas rider there is Dario Cataldo. They've got the early numbers this year because last year Danilo De Luca was on Liquigas, so though he's not here on a new team, their team captain today is Franco Pelazzotti. But there are a few cards to play, I think, Liquigas. And this little bit of a flurry by Thomas Voigtler and friends is telling on the time gap, inside 3 minutes as we speak. It's he who feels strong, does the work in the breakaway right now, and does long turns as well. It looks as though Pavel Brut is the man who feels the stronger, or strongest. Sitting at the back, Foten. David Kopp is yo-yoing. Every time it goes up, he's off the back. But Pavel Brut here is driving on. 71 kilometers to go. And he's been in the lead since the 24th kilometer of the 261. So they're not far short of a couple of 100 kilometers up front today. Tremendous achievement. People often wonder why riders attack like this, knowing they've got no chance of reaching the finish, but there is always that lingering hope it will work. It has happened before. But either way, with television wall-to-wall coverage around the world, you reckon your sponsors will be pleased even if the legs do ache when you go for a cool-down ride tomorrow morning. Well, we've been over the Haute Levée. We're looking for the Côte de Rossier, which is a 4-kilometer climb with an average gradient of 6%, so it's not too bad. But one gets the feeling that the peloton here are waiting for La Redoute, which comes at kilometer 226. About 35 from the finish, so we're still about 34 kilometers, about 20 miles from the town where we start the climb of Rémuchon. They've pulled back that little group, but there's another one gone off, and that looks like it might be Philippe Gilbert. Yeah, it has to be. He's probably going to call in as his house for a cup of tea because he lives around this region. And marked there by a rider from Liquigas. Might be Vincenzo Nibali. He'd be the obvious one to join him in. I think Philippe Gilbert is enjoying a great start to the year, and he knows that his name will be on everybody's lips once he gets himself off the front of the peloton. He was the king of the mountains in Australia's Tour Down Under this year. Not really mountains, but they're about hills very similar in the Tour Down Under to the hills he's riding today. And he also then went from Tour Down Under to Mallorca and rode the Challenge Mallorca, and he won 2 of those challenge races in Mallorca. So he has tremendous form, and not to mention, of course, the fact he won Het Volk as well with an absolutely superb lone escape. So he's going well. They'll pay attention to him, that's for sure. Back into these beautiful narrow roads, but unfortunately we found the Côte de Rossier. I'm not too sure about Marcus Fulton at the back now. He seems to be yo-yoing a little bit. Oh dear. This is back to Gilbert, and he's been picked up there. He's still mixing it with the front. He's maybe forming a little breakaway, perhaps. David Kopp, I think this time it's curtains. He's just swung off the back because this is a long climb. This is 4 kilometres. And if he goes off early, then he won't get back over the top. It's just a little bit too long for him. Yep, that's the end of it. Even so, it's been a great day of racing for him. Think of all those lovely kilometres in your legs, David. Once you recover, you'll be on top form. Well, I've had some great fun riding my bike in this area, by the way, with Stephen Roach, of all people, when he was at the top of his career, unfortunately, because he really did hurt you when he went on these hills. When he used to ride, and with great success, Liege, Bastogne, Liege, podium finisher, of course. Stephen still runs his coaching camps in Mallorca, and I believe still owns a hotel in Antibes, which is quite famous for its restaurant. It looks like these two riders still pushing on here. Still haven't confirmed that rider, but I think it's Nibali. Now there's the lonely man on the right now, David Kopp. He's lost sight of the other 3. They're around the corner and gone. There won't be a return now on what is an idyllic late spring day as we head up towards the month of May and the first classic stage races of the year. Bastogne a long way behind these riders now. The peloton never really turned a pedal in anger all the way south to Bastogne today. They allowed the breakaway to build on it, knowing that the return is viciously hard. Oh, it's Jelle Karlström who's gone up here with Gilbert. Good man to choose. A good start to the year, number 4, Jelle Karlström. He rode well in Paris-Nice. He won stage 3. He hasn't won many races in his career, and in fact he's now heading up. He's 32 years of age this year, Jelle Karlström, and he's only won himself 7 races. But a very strong man, and never has a problem holding on to a good contract. His last win, by the way, until he won Paris-Nice this year, the stage of, was a stage of the Tour of Tasmania, which, as any Tasmanian will tell you, is not part of Australia, but of course it is. Sits off the bottom end of Australia, across the Tasman Sea. 67 kilometres to go, and now we've got Kopp at 24, Gilbert and Karlström at 2:27, and the peloton snapping at the heels at 2:42. And the spot of bother there for Barlow World's Stephen Cummings, world champion on the track, and now joining Barlow World, and I think he'd be a terrific asset. But he's finding Liège now getting a bit tough towards the end. But time's on his side. Pavel Brute, the cows, are about the only spectators not interested today by the look of it here as we climb up this long drag over the hillsides and far away. Soon we'll be descending down as we head towards the Vecquet and then onto La Redoute. And that's where I feel the peloton will want to have the leaders in sight. And these little sorties off the front by people like Gilbert can only help the chase. 16 seconds the gap between Gilbert and Karlström and the peloton. And that flag indicating that they're climbing this in a headwind right now, and that's probably what destroyed David Kopp. As he'll lose ground, the coattails of David Kopp here, pedalling rather alone now at 41 seconds. Help is on the way. He'll just keep his own rhythm going now, his own tempo to get over the top of these climbs. See what the legs are like should that group behind catch him. There's Jelle Karlström. Doesn't look 31, does he? Gilbert, how many hours has he spent training in the Belgian Ardennes over the years, popping across down past the Maas, or the River Maas, which goes into Maastricht, or maybe going the other way towards Germany and Aachen. And if you keep going, of course, you'll find Luxembourg as well. Stunningly beautiful part of the area. A little bit of industry, but not a lot. It's basically a tourist area. Well, they're on the same climb here of the Rossier. Sat at the back is Bouygues Telecom, John Johann Schopp of Switzerland. And there is Kim Kirken too, the leader of Team High Road today. And I can hear on race radio that they're now saying that David Kopp is over a minute behind now the leaders, so our clock needs to catch up a little bit. It's doing its best. They're saying 1 minute 20 now is the gap, David Kopp to these three leaders, so that's a huge gap. And our clock's got so confused it's wiped him off the map completely, and the peloton, or the second group, is at 2:08. There we are. They've got it right now, more or less. Pierre Roland has been very, very impressive today, this young man. 21 years of age. Another good find here by Roger Liege. Well, they're not doing much talking down there right now. All you'll hear is the rasping breath as they come up towards the top of the climb. Damiano Cunego has asked his boys to start pacemaking at the front for Lamprey. Now what's happened back here? Because this is Adam Hansen, time trial champion of Australia. Just come back for drinks, I think. He's not in difficulty anyway. Judging by the way he's stocking up here, he's planning on going the distance. 65 kilometres to go for Adam. He got the team off to the great season they are having. Remember, they're the former T-Mobile setup. Bob Stapleton, the man behind that squad, and he's called it Team High Road as the search continues for a new sponsor. But I must say, a sponsor would get great value for money off that team right now. They are winning a lot of races, and Adam Hansen got them going back in January when he won the Aussie National Time Trial Championship at a place called Ballarat in Victoria. And I was there at the time, and I must say he was over the moon, quite literally. He's a Queenslander, but fortunately the weather down in Victoria on that occasion was as hot as Queensland was. The irony was Queensland was getting rain at the time, which caused Robbie McEwen to leave Queensland and come to New South Wales, to Sydney, with his teammate Nick Gates, and go training in Sydney because they literally couldn't train up in Queensland because of the downpours which were happening there, causing big floods. Well, this is Gilbert now, and I don't know where Jelle Karlström is, unless he's in front, but I somehow doubt it. I think he's been dispatched back to the peloton. Well, he's heading towards La Redoute via, of course, the Côte de la Vecchie. Peloton under the control of Silence Lotto. Visconti, the champion of Italy, tucked in third wheel. This is David, and up comes Philippe Gilbert. So he's pulled him back. And judging by the speed of Gilbert, I don't think Cobb will be too keen on catching this particular train. How do you do? And it's all gone. 1 kilometre to the top of La Vecchie, I think we're at the moment. Yes, must be. Straight by. The Mavic service car drops in behind. Always a nice feeling. The riders know they've got a good lead when the service is called in behind. He's clearly going to reach these boys. He's going to reach them as fast as he can. And it might be before we get to the climb of La Redoute. .209 kilometres covered. Peloton's getting smaller, even though nobody seems to be moving off the front of it anymore. Study in slow motion of Philippe Gilbert. Chosen a nice place to become a professional bike rider here. The Walloon area is where we are here in Belgium. This is where their national language is in French, whereas the Flanders region, their language is Dutch. And I used to live in Belgium in the Flanders region. I used to travel with teams to ride here in the Ardennes, and I always found it completely strange that people of the same nation could only talk to each other in sign language, because the Flemish didn't speak French and the French certainly didn't speak Flemish. So you'd knock on somebody's door and ask, could you get change for the bicycle race, and I had to interpret it because they virtually all spoke English, but the two Belgian people couldn't converse with each other. Visconti's got himself right on the sharp end now, riding very well today. I'll tell you, the riders we haven't seen much of today are CSC so far. They're led by Frank Schleck, and they've got a good team to back him here today, apart from brother Andy's in here as well. You've also got Eric Larsen and Kolobnev. This is Gilbert. Got himself in time trial mode now. This is Carlson, so he did drop Carlson. And Carlson himself hasn't gone back to that field, so perhaps he's planning on a rejoin, perhaps. We'll see. Well, Gilbert might well be aiming it once more at the Olympic Games this year, but his thoughts won't be there for a while yet. He'll be thinking of the Tour de France. He rode the Olympic Games road race 4 years ago in Athens, which was won convincingly by Paolo Bettini with Sergio Paulinho, who he finished in second place and then started to ride for Johan Brunel's squad, but hasn't really excelled since that wonderful performance then. But Gilbert here, he finished in 49th place back in the pack. First time we noticed Philippe was when he won the points competition in the Tour de l'Avenir, the race of the future, back in 2002. And on the strength of that, he turned professional in 2003. He's all over the road here, but he's closing. 1:32 now, just 39 miles, 62 kilometers to go. And we've got 4 official climbs, plus the climb up to the finishing line to come. Interesting move this. I'm not sure he's making a wrong move. He's gone very, very early. But then think about Het Volk. I think it was the last 50 kilometers he was on his own and he stayed away. So if he's got the same form, they won't give him too much of a run. And I just wonder what he was doing there, whether he's putting his radio back in. It seems to have come out. They don't have a long range, these radios, and the Director Sportif is going to be about a minute and a half behind, because he'll be in the team car behind the peloton at the moment. So he may or may not be getting guidance as to what the gap is. He won't know, perhaps. He's 1.5 minutes behind, but he is closing in just. Meanwhile, back in the woods here, we're down to 3, led by Pavel Brut, Pierre Roland of France, and Marcus Foten here at the rear. German rider on cue, or caption generated, reminding us who they are. No results for Marcus Foten this year, but we must never forget that he started out life as the world champion in the under-23 time trial category, so he can ride a good time trial. That was back in 2003, and again, like Gilbert, on the strength of that performance, he turned professional in 2004. He's only ever raced on the Gerolsteiner team. There'll be a new team for him next year because Gerolsteiner lead the sport this year. But it's such a good squad. I can't believe that Hans Holster will not find a new sponsor for them. So that's Marcus Foten, 27 years of age this year in September. 136, so it looks as though a little bit of a faltering of the ways here for Gilbert. On the right side of our screens here, he's really put himself out into no man's land here. There's still a long way to go. At La Redoute, you come through the town of Remechon, cross the village, river bridge. On the eve of the Liege, in the years gone by, they used to have a criterium in Remechon, but I'm not sure whether that still happens. It's a beautiful little town, and there's one or two nice hotels there. A good base, by the way, if you're ever planning on watching Liege, because you're right in the Ardennes for an immediate bike ride, straight up the hills and in the country. I suggest you don't turn right and go up La Redoute until you've warmed up, because it is a very steep climb, 25%. And just when you think it can't get any harder, it does. But once over the top, you're on a lovely plateau, and it's a beautiful area. Well, sit down feed in 500 meters. Nobody's going to be stopping here. These boys are heading for home as fast as they can go now, 59 kilometers to go. And they've pegged Gilbert. He's not getting any closer. Late afternoon now, 4 o'clock. Liege, Bastogne, Liege, been on the road since mid-morning, having left the Place Saint-Lambert, heading back to Ans, different place where we go back to, on the other side of the river. Settled back in, got a lovely position there, and he really settles down to some hard work here. Meanwhile, Kjell Karlström hasn't given up either. But according to our screen there, he's 30 seconds now behind Gilbert. Former national road race champion of Sweden, Karlström. Of Finland, I beg your pardon. Different country, same place. Up in Scandinavia there. Well, he's really committed himself as well now, and he's lost the wheel on that climb as Gilbert, who was just too strong up the hill. Just see here as he relaxes a little bit here, just quite what his decision is. But I think it'll be to pedal along and see what happens from the back. There's no point in going back to them. They may as well let them race up to him. Gilbert's got other thoughts. Remember, he's heading now towards the climb of La Redoute. 57 kilometers to go. La Redoute comes at 226 kilometers into the race, so still a little way to go. Peloton are slipping away. They're out to 3 minutes. And quite frankly, Gilbert's getting no closer now to the three riders up front. Another nice big crowd here as he swings around. The three boys have gone through the feed. Wise to take it on board now, because they've done an awful long way out front today. Hats off to them for that, I must say. But they might be starting to regret it very shortly. Foten wrestling with his musette here, and then taking out what he fancies, and then the musette will go to the nearest souvenir hunter. It's a novel place to keep it, I must say. Marcus Foten, there's the bag gone. Guarantee it will hardly hit the ground here in Belgium before it's whisked away. Pavel Brut in the yellow for Tinkoff, no stranger to lone breakaways or small leading groups, so he's happy enough right now. Still always looks as though he's in full flight with that style he has. Also cramming the food down, wise man. And Pierre Roland, well, he's a new boy on the block for Crédit Agricole. He turned pro last year, he's only 21 now, so they've plucked him off a very young street indeed. And this has been a big effort for him today. And really, I think he's the strongest of the three riders. There's the spread, if they've got the energy to read that. There's rather a lot of writing on there. And Gilbert still on his own. The crowd recognising him, cheering him. They'll be listening to the coverage on the car radios, I'm quite sure, before the riders come up here. Well, I think Gilbert probably playing to the crowd here. And I can't think of another reason why he's gone quite so early. Maybe he wasn't confident that he could climb away from the field on La Redoute. Might take too many of the projected favourites with him. Let's not forget that as the result last year, the vast majority of the top 10 riders are here. No, we don't have the winner, Danilo De Luca. But really, apart from the retired Michael Bogart, all of the others are here. Cunego, Kirkin, Rebellin, Bettini, Frank Schleck, Valverde, all taking part. And frankly, we haven't seen them the whole day. But I wouldn't reckon the day will pass by without seeing them soon. As we said, we've got La Redoute to come. And that's where they've got to make the move. And then they're quickly followed by a fairly average road, good clean road ascent of the Côte de Sprimont. And then the new climb, which I personally have never seen. It replaces the Sarthe-Tillemont as the Roche aux Faucons. And they say its steepest part is 18%. And that's going to hurt the boys. We'll see. The main fielder in the feeding zone. Always a little bit dangerous, especially at the back of the peloton. You see the fallen cans there. So easily cause a crash. But there's Roland. He's finally got his food out and thrown the bag away as well. And we're off in search of La Redoute now. And still, they've held Gilbert at around a minute and a half for an awful long way now, ever since he put his move in, which is on the Haute Levée. Beautiful chateau of the Ardennes. Look to be in absolutely perfect condition. We're on to the Vecche now, 5.9%, 3.1 kilometres the climb. That's the average, by the way. It kicks a little bit steeper than that. Now let's see if anybody else is set to crack here. I've got a feeling Foten isn't feeling that good at all. He's been at the back for quite a way now. Roland seems to be the strongest of the three. Brut is content to also follow the young Frenchman's back wheel. That's why I think they may have a find here in Pierre Roland. Now, where is Karlström? Apart from being just off the front, I think the peloton must be closing in on him now as he starts the climb here. Never seen Heidner, Cadel Evans either, who's had this fabulous start to the year, and really he's going to go into the Tour de France this year as the outstanding favourite, I think. It will not be an easy Tour de France to predict, but his start has been so good. He was third overall in the Route del Sol, which is a good starter in February. Then he won at Mont Ventoux, which had to be a big morale booster in Paris-Nice on the fourth stage of that event. And then he went on to win overall and the stage of the Coppi and Bartoli race in Italy. Second overall in the Tour de Pays Basque in northern Spain. He's already finished second midweek in Flèche Wallonne as well, so he's showing a terrific form that I don't think we've ever seen from him before. We'll see. Maybe we'll see him towards the end. If he's going to go, like all of the stars, they're going to go by the time they get to La Redoute. A little bit of excitement at the front there. One or two riders sprinting through. Visconti down there as well. This is Gilbert back with those legs. Still looks pretty cool. Probably looking out for all his friends along the way. 2:26 over the third group. That'll be, I presume, Karlström. I think, judging by the earpiece there, he was receiving some instructions there from his manager. He certainly climbs well, doesn't he? Keeps a big rhythm going here. This is a fast climb, this one. Using the big chain wheel. Good rhythm on the climbs. Sun right on his back here as he climbs up the Côte de la Vecchie. 209 kilometers covered. Total distance 261 kilometers today. It's a real classic distance. Meanwhile, further up the same climb, about a minute and 16 seconds further, I guess. Pavel Brut has got to the front here now. Roland still doesn't look under any pressure. He's a big boy, isn't he? Sits on that bike. And Marcus Foten sits in number 3 wheel, and that's where we've seen him every time we've joined the leaders. But now it looks like Cadel Evans has told his riders to start riding at the front here now. And again, he's got Popovic up there. Sonia Duval also moving a man into the thick of the action. Not too sure who that rider is from Rabobank. I say not too sure. He's got the riding style of Oscar Freire, but I can't believe Freire's up there. Now this is really strung out. This is the push here coming on this Côte de la Vecchie before we get to La Redoute. I think that split the peloton, that effort. Let's see if our helicopter pulls back a little bit, because this has been a very serious effort here, and it's been done by Cadel Evans' team. But once over the Vecchie, about a 15-kilometre charge to Remuchon, and then we're on to the La Redoute, Sprimont, and the new climb itself. It would just be nice if the camera could swing on that helicopter and show us, because I think the peloton has cracked here. Terrific pacemaking. I think it's Jaroslav Popovic who's doing all of the work down there. Meanwhile, up at the front, not looking quite so sprightly, but Roland has gone back and is prepared to drive this. But Gilbert, rather painfully, I have to say, is closing in. Look, 68 seconds for Philippe. So this is a sensible catch. He's not committing suicide to cross the gap and go into the red zone. He's just going across at his own pace. He'll accelerate on the climbs and close the gap a little bit more there. Clearly on the climbs, this is when he starts to make inroads. And having said that, he's just lost 2 seconds. Only 1 now. It's about this stage of the escape where I often wonder what riders think to themselves. Have I done the right thing or the wrong thing? And in all honesty, it's that stage of the race where you don't know whether you've made a mistake. But you've still got 53 kilometres to go and 1 or 2 walls sitting out in front of you. Time to dip into that suitcase, I guess. Still Marcus Foten sat at the back of the race here. Looks a little bit slower, and that's the catch of Karlström down there. Look, he's been swept up by the hard-riding boys from Silence Lotto. That's making the statistics a little bit easier to understand. 1:07. Gilbert being told he's at 1:30 something, 37 I think it was, so he's a bit closer than that board is telling, but there's a delay, of course, while the timekeeper logs the times and then catches up with all the riders. The time's already changed. It is a very difficult climb with some kicks of around 25–26%. The thing is that there'll be a huge crowd there as well, and we'll see the motorway will be blocked with vehicles. It becomes a big car park on the day. There's the gap though, 1 minute and 3 seconds back to Gilbert now. And the peloton, I think, must surely be closing in on them all. Well, there's the peloton hotly pursuing Philippe Gilbert on this long straight over the top of the Liege. 51 kilometres to go, 1 minute and 2 seconds. This has been a very difficult chase for Gilbert, and he must be wondering what's going on here, because these three boys have really stuck to the guns. I think Foten, as we've seen, has been a passenger for some distance now. He's tired. Pavel Brut helping out when he can, particularly on the climbs, but Pierre Roland is the revelation, and he's driving again here. A Frenchman, a Russian and a German being chased by a Belgian, and then the whole pack, what's left of it. And somebody's tried to go up the inside of the press bike there, caught him off guard. Just good high-speed chasing, but nothing sensational coming from that peloton yet. They just want to keep this breakaway within shouting distance, I reckon, and then Laradoute will decide the move. A lot of riders, especially the clever ones, have been out to see this new climb as well, the Côte de la Roche-aux-Faucons, and so they know how hard it is, and one or two are reckoning it is very hard. And CSC has gone off on the move down there. And in fact, this here is Kolobnev, yes. Another Russian. Alexander Kolobnev, interesting move this, to try and soften them up perhaps, to leave perhaps a springboard for somebody like Carlos Sastre or Frank Schleck. Frank Schleck was third in this race last year. Second in the World Road Race Championships a couple of years ago, Kolobnev in Spain. He's got a good reputation in the World Championships. He was 7th in 2005 as well. He's been the National Road Race Champion of Russia back in 2004. That was when he finished 10th in the Olympic Games in Athens. Got him the ride, actually, winning the title. And when he turned pro, that was the first time we knew of him. He finished 5th in Flèche Wallonne. No performances this year, but that may be about to change. He's been nominated as the man to soften the peloton up in favour of Team CSC, who've also announced their retirement from the sport this year. Certainly Kolobnev has gone away with a bit more urgency. Philippe Gilbert settled down more or less in no man's land, and still 68 seconds behind at 30 miles to ride, 48 kilometres to go. Now the move, coming first of all from Case de Pan down there. And this again could be another softener in favour of Alejandro Valverde. And that's caused a little bit of a reaction from the field now. It's time to start the chase. And we'll watch that peloton time come down just a little bit. Back up with Philippe Gilbert. He's knocked off precisely 1 second since we were last here. But he's still sticking to his guns, and he's still riding pretty quickly, Gilbert, taking the shortest route possible. Still the ticket collector is Marcus Foten, and the driver, there's no doubt now that that is Pierre Roland, who's keeping this break suitably ahead of Philippe Gilbert. Well, our cameras reorganised. We might get some idea who that rider was that caused the counter-attack there from Case de Pont. But it's a good time to start. This will be the psychological part of the Liège this year as they head towards La Redoute, and riders who've got the nerve to go and stick their nose out front might steal a march here before the climb. And especially if you're not a great climber, it's one to get over before the peloton. The others, apart from the new one, which we haven't seen, are not quite as steep. More information. 55 seconds for Philippe Gilbert, they're saying. And there, so that break has got away. 1:33 to the peloton's 1:55. And still setting the pace here, Alexander Kolobnev. He does seem to be getting across that gap quite quickly. You see, he's only 30 seconds behind Philippe Gilbert, who's been out there for ages trying to do something about that breakaway. He might welcome the arrival of Kolobnev right now. Although it looks a big peloton from the helicopter, I just wonder how many riders are down there. Maybe 100. That's the tail of it now, so yes, maybe less than 100, maybe about 80 riders left in with the race at the moment. And the familiar riding style there of Luis Leon Sanchez of Case de Pont. Rojas, the sprinter, is still there, sitting near the back. Looks as though David Kopp has managed to hang on in the peloton for a while, which is pretty good. There's Paolo Bettini, easy enough for us to pick out. And Rebellin is also there, riding very close to Bettini. Both riders former winners of this event. As we go back up to Kolobnev. And a nice clean bike he's riding, not quite Paris-Roubaix, is it? And with the sun out and the roads dry, been a good day for the mechanics. They may not have to spend too long outside the hotel tonight. He's looking as though he's going well enough to catch Philippe Gilbert here, Kolobnev. He's got a good rhythm going, determined, and he's moving good. The empty road ahead. Always spectators wherever you go in a not a greatly populated region of Belgium. Quick-Step have decided to take over the main chase here. That might be in favour of Paolo Bettini, who's riding not too far behind Visconti there, the champion of Italy, title that Bettini himself has once held. Well, they're saying there's a huge crowd awaiting on the Côte de la Redoute. Well, we expected that, because that is where I think everybody tries to get to if they can. It's a narrow road. You can't take your car up after a certain time, and halfway up you can't take your car up at all because it's too narrow. But there will be a lot of people, that's for sure. And the way it's going right now, we could well be going to this climb as a peloton. 44 kilometers to go. This has been one of the hardest chases Philippe Gilbert will remember, I think. He's barely riding quicker than the breakaway, if at all, right now. Yet he's seeing all those motorbikes in front. He might think they're just around the corner. I doubt it. And at 22 seconds, Kolobnev is coming back to him, and that would be a very nice strong pair of extra legs for Gilbert to make good use of. I think he needs help right now. It's been far too long, this chase. These are the three leaders, always the same order. I hope I'm not doing Marcus Foten a total injustice and he's leading when the cameras aren't with him, but he's never at the front when we come up here. Don't think the rider from Case d'Epargne made any progress there. We haven't seen him since. This is the faster road now. Gently drop off the high roads down towards Remouchon. There's only one way out if you're in Liege, Bastogne, Liege. And the quick step rider there, about to be joined. A little bit of help on the way. The peloton is frisky now. Well, he knows, doesn't he? Somebody's told him that Kolobnev is coming, and he's an intelligent boy, Philippe Gilbert. He might well now ease back and let Kolobnev join him because he knows he's coming. In fact, I think he's squeezing his microphone there, so he might well be talking back to the team car. The World Governing Body UCI are formulating new rules on the use of race radios this year, hopefully in time for the Tour de France. Although they'll never ban them now, they will use them and I think try and restrict the use on certain occasions too. Been a good solid kill here for Kolobnev. This is the way to do it. Get across as quickly as possible and use as little energy as possible. It's only a 1 minute 40-second spread now between the three front runners. It's all coming together. Uncanny, isn't it? As we come towards La Redoute, the whole field is rejoining here. The Rabobank rider at the back is Thomas Dekker. A little bit of a shadow himself this year after a brilliant season last year when he hit the big time, but he doesn't seem to be riding that well just now. A little bit of sickness. And there we've just seen him riding at the back of the pack here as well. It happens. Next year might be another year, or indeed towards the end of this year, who knows. Still a young man. Nice long descent. We continue to fall away from the hills. And this is where Brute always comes into his own. He's a very strong rider on the flat. That's his major asset. He's not a great climber. Little bit of a traffic block at the back here. Matthew Lloyd going through there for the Australian Road Race champion. He won that title. Same venue as Adam Hansen a couple of days later. Nice little mix from peloton to the face of Philippe Gilbert, who's now thinking, I've got to get this over with as fast as I can. It's been far too long. He's thrown away a lot of energy here today, Gilbert, and it might cost him dearly before the end of the day is up. He's never had a good performance to my knowledge in Liège, Bastogne, Liège, and yet he has been a man for the Spring Classics. He's always had good results. He won Hepvold twice, and he's been third in Milan-San Remo this year. Let's not forget that. I almost did. But maybe he's just hit the high form right at the start of the year from his days in the Tour Down Under. Maybe he's just starting to tip over now. Coming to the end of the classic season, he'll want a rest period, I think, and then he'll start to build again. That's the way you have to ride now in world-class professional cycling. You can't go like riders used to go in the days of Eddy Merckx, where you'd ride 151 days of racing and stay on great form all of the time. Now it's a question of hard racing from day one, whereas in the old days the racing wasn't quite so hard at the start of the year. And you just got to take your time out and retrain your body, and you've got to make your targets. For the big names, it's usually the Tour de France, a classic, and hopefully a world title. And then in between, I'll take a rest. Lance Armstrong, of course, used to only ride competitively in the month of June and July, and that was his season done. .135, so everybody's coming back. Even Kolobnev here, who shouldn't be far off, seeing around that corner and spotting Gilbert right now. But you see the reaction is coming here now. People repositioning themselves in the peloton. Everybody knows. Oh, a bit tight on the right there. The Cofidis guy nearly left the road. But once we get down into Remechon, which isn't too far away, then they know it's a very narrow entry onto the climb of La Redoute, and there will be a fast acceleration across the town and onto the slopes. And if a guy slips his gears or tumbles off, that could be the end of Liège for you behind him. Still the cheers here for Philippe Gilbert. And still, no, there's Kolobnev, but the peloton's right behind him now. They're going to sweep him up without allowing him here to catch up with Gilbert. And they're only 20 seconds behind Gilbert now, so, and the peloton is quite small now. Underneath the autoroute, which takes the riders down in deep into the Ardennes and onwards. Through Mons and Charleroi and heading towards Germany. Well, there's the left turn. I stayed in the hotel straight ahead. Very nice too. Turn left here, then you turn right, and then you're on La Redoute. And they've timed it almost to perfection. Just the three riders are up ahead. 124 the gap. Gilbert behind. Remechon is the town. And they'll swing off this lovely road any second now, because La Redoute is on their right shoulder. All the campers down there, all of these people have been told to park the cars and walk, and it's quite a walk to the top. This is Gilbert, so the three leaders must just about be starting the climb. They're under the bridge around the corner. This is Gilbert. He knows exactly what lies ahead of him now. He'll have trained up this hill many, many times. This is part of the course of the criterium the bunch is on at the moment, but of course I'm not even sure they still hold it. And here we are. They've just about started. There's the car park. Used to be a freeway or autoroute on the right. They gave up trying to move the cars on, so they made it a car park instead a few years ago. Now, this is a steep start, but once they get round the top bend, it even kicks up more. This is very, very hard now. Now we'll see if Marcus Foten has been sat there as a passenger or whether he really has been tired. Judging by the Belgian flags there, the wind is not too strong, but it's sweeping across them just now. And for the first time, Pierre Roland is looking a little bit tired. Concentration on Pavel Brut here, giving nothing away, driving on, being drawn to the summit by what will be a huge crowd in his eyesight very shortly. 36 kilometers to go, nothing, 20 odd miles, 22, 23 miles to the finish, but it's the terrain that will hurt now. Gilbert, you can see motorcycles in front, but he must be very close to spotting the breakaway. The peloton looks as though they're in control there, with Barlow World now at the front. And don't forget, they've got Mauricio Soler, the king of the mountains of the Tour de France last year, in that group. They've also got a first-time rider in the Liège-Bastogne-Liège in the Kenyan rider, Chris Froome, who actually lives in South Africa, but he's very much from Kenya. First professional, I think, ever to come from that country, signing papers now for Barlow World. Just see who starts to push the pace up here a little bit now. There's been, I'm very surprised to say that there is no obvious move by anybody in particular here. They're just allowing the tempo riding. There's the car park on the freeway, you see. That's the Belgians for you. Love their sport, know their riders, and if you are a star in Belgium, you feel like you really are a star. Eddy Merckx has great difficulty walking in this country, I can tell you. There's the crowd now. The three leaders have gone up, and we haven't seen too much of them. We're watching Gilbert climb. Now he really is dancing to the orchestra of the crowd on the right as they push him virtually up with their voices. 49 seconds to those leaders now. And if we can just lift that camera, it's not going to be far back to the group here. Here is the group here, and they're being led by Lamprey. Pretty sure that this is Daniela Liege on the front for Lamprey. And Brute has cracked. It's just got a little bit too steep. This is the steepest climb. If he just gets over the top here, there's no descent off this climb. It goes onto a plateau, and Marcus Foten, who appeared to be the weak one, is just trying to hang on to the coattails there of Pierre Rolland, who has been an absolute revelation today. Gilbert closing them down. They're in trouble except Rolland, so I think Gilbert might well close in here. We're looking at Foten. Remember that behind Foten is Brute. As we now get up, no we don't. I thought we were going to see the Frenchman in action, but we're not. And just look at Gilbert here. He's virtually sprinting up this climb. He makes it look like it's a flat road. 24% on its steepest part. The peloton still being escorted by Lamprey. And the last survivor of an original break of 5 that went at 24 kilometres into the race. Here we are now at 35 to go, and Pierre Rolland knows now he's going to have to do it by himself. Everybody loves Philippe Gilbert in this part of the world as they try to shout him up. Matty Lloyd's got himself to the front on La Redoute. That's a very good performance by the young champion from Australia. He won that title so well. He broke away in a really hard course, very hard conditions, and nobody could answer his attack. He's solo to victory, just outside of Ballarat. Buninyong is the actual name of the town. Very nice pancake house there, by the way. Gilbert continues. The legs are just about creaking at the seams, but he's getting up to the top. And Matthew Lloyd having a good look at La Redoute from the driving seat here, being chased by, I think it is Maurizio Soler there, who gets onto his wheel. The man that surprises with a stage win and then went on to win the Tour de France King of the Mountains title. Now giving himself a good workout. We're getting at last to see the riders who might feature in July. And of course, a lot of these guys also honing their form for the Giro d'Italia. Bettini is now gone. Gilbert's history. Look at that. Paolo Bettini, the cricket jumps straight past. Moves over the summit there, but he climbs a little bit further, unfortunately, and then it levels. And Lloyd is coming across to Paolo Bettini. Champions jerseys all. Well, that is not the style of Cadel Evans, who's come up into third place. It might be Popovic. Meanwhile, Pierre Rolland, that was another line on the road, so maybe that was the summit. Well, although it's made a very ragged peloton, I wouldn't exactly call this climb decisive right now. Just on the right of our picture here is the Skill Shimano team, very popular wildcard team, and that is Yukihiro Doi of Japan, who's on the back. Nice to see the Asian riders breaking into the big races here, on the big teams too. It's got to be Frank Schleck as he makes his move from the field. Those long legs, the man that finished third last year, full of confidence now. Well, we're over the top. Schleck was in the action over the top of La Redoute a year ago, went on to finish in third place. Remember, this is the last classic of the year. Frank has already notched a runners-up spot in the Amstel Gold Race exactly a week ago. Marcus Foten, it's his turn to fight as best he can now. Côte de Sprimont comes very shortly. As I say, there's no real descent off this climb. This is like a link lane that will drop onto the Côte de Sprimont, which is a good road surface and not a huge steep climb, but enough at this stage of the race to hurt the legs. And here comes trouble then. Number 26, it's Andy Schleck. Brother Andy, not Frank at all. You put these two guys together, you're not too sure till you read the numbers which one is which, I'll tell you. But this is Andy Schleck anyway. Easing the way for brother Frank, perhaps. Pierre Roland, a name perhaps we're going to say a lot of this year. He's had an absolutely fabulous day out. He'll go home a hero. He certainly will if he wins, but I can't see that happening. Andy Schleck, they're saying now. I think the caption writer's getting as confused as me, because it is Andy Schleck, I beg your pardon. Yes, I am getting confused. It's Frank who is back in the pack, we presume. That's the right turn off the lane, which brings you over La Redoute. And then we have this flattish road where the leaders are right now. 26 seconds to the third group on the road. Well, that will be Andy Schleck, I presume. Just on 20 miles to go. Pierre Roland, the last survivor. And he's been in the lead now for over 200 kilometers, about 220, I think. Those legs must be just about finished. Went away at 24 kilometers in, joined in the attack by David Kopp. And the big strong boys are coming up. They've caught Marcus Foten now, at least Andy has. Oh, this is Stefan Schumacher. So he's come across with Andy from the peloton. Foten may be still in front, but I'm not sure. I think he must be. If he is, he's only 10 seconds, so we're going to see him very, very shortly. And that'll be good news for Foten. Sees a teammate coming across here in Schumacher himself. A well-known classic rider, winner of the Amstel Gold Race 1 year ago, and he also finished his season with a bronze medal in the World Road Race Championship. It's about time he did something this year, I think, because he hasn't done anything yet. And for the second year in succession, a huge peloton has crossed La Redoute. There's a big bunch there. They've all regrouped. A lot of guys not too keen on chasing because they're hanging on, but they're in there. And maybe Andy Schleck has sensed that. He's made his move on the climb of La Redoute. Anything brother Frank can do, Andy can do as well. Andy was the revelation in the Giro d'Italia last year. "50 seconds the spread. Côte de Sprimont, the next climb to come. The bunch is fracturing all the time now, but they're not getting something going. They're all trying to organise a chase group here, but it's one man's big effort, and then they all sit up again. There's nobody got the legs to help out. This is a slight descent here before we got Sprimont. That's the 10th climb of the day, by the way, the Côte de Sprimont. It's the 11th climb I think we're all pretty interested in, because that'll take us on to the Roche-aux-Faucons. Average is 10%, 1 in 10. And it's 1.5 kilometers, so it's hard. They reckon it's 18% in places. Schleck, Foten, Schumacher. So they picked up Marcus. Except that's not quite the group we're seeing here. We're looking at the leaders now. Now Pierre Roland must still be out front. Our cameras are having a problem keeping up with the organisation here, because that's Pavel Brut for sure. And there he is alongside him. That's Vladimir Efimkin. This is another group completely here. That was the AG2R rider, Vladimir Efimkin. Meanwhile, at the front, this is the climb of the Côte de Strimont. And Andy Schleck is now coming up towards him here with Schumacher on his back wheel. Looking over his shoulder, can't see too much evidence of that chase behind. And Andy Schleck looks as though he's riding his own race here, and he's getting on with the job in hand. Pavel Brut has blown from this group, and in fact this rider is Pelazzotti, who's going up with Vladimir Efimkin. He's working his way through from the field. It's a big push now by Pelazzotti, taken on the role as leader of Liquigas, following the departure of Danilo De Luca. And so that'll be Photon they're picking up just ahead. "29 kilometers to go. The Strimont is not too long a climb. Just about a mile all told. And just picked up Marcus Photon. Our man was ready with the captions there, wasn't he? That's the end of that. Sharp left turn now. This is the main road they turned off to take in the climb. They're back on it again now. Now, these are the terrains here where Liege, Bastogne-Liege has been so often decided, and I wonder, because poor old Pierre Roland has now been caught. First time anybody from the peloton's seen him, really, since the first half hour of the race today. And has he got the spirit to pick up? I don't think so. No, so that's put Andy Schleck now in the driving seat here with Stefan Schumacher. Schumacher, winner of the Amstel Gold 1 year ago. His birthday will be midway through the Tour de France. Schumacher this year, should he get to ride it for Gerolsteiner, 27 years of age he'll be, and here he comes again. Oh, Paolo Bettini. He just loves the corrugations like this, where he can bounce across them. Looking the wrong way, Franco. He just got past. As Bettini offered no weight there for those two. He's gone straight by them. They're heading back to the peloton, I suspect. Going forward, the world champion. This man is so proud of the rainbow colours. He's gone straight by Pierre Roland as if he wasn't moving. I don't think he was. And now just two riders are in front. And Bettini is on the prowl. It's such a typical move here by this strong man. He won Liège-Bastogne-Liège in 2000. He won it for the second time in 2002. And he's always had good results here. Fourth last year. He was second in 2006. He was fourth in 2005. This man just loves Liège-Bastogne-Liège. You can't keep him out of the television pictures. And this is a big decision by Paolo Bettini here to go when he's gone. He sent something back in the peloton. He's an opportunist attacker, but he also thinks all the time. And he knows now he's got two strong men in front. Young Andy Schleck and Stefan Schumacher. Schumacher prepared to drive on just for the moment. Inside 30 kilometers to go to the finish now. He'll be 23, Andy Schleck, and that's all in June this year. It was a couple of months away. And his big reputation was second overall in the Giro d'Italia last year. Matched the big strong Italians on the major climbs. He won the white jersey, his best rookie. And really, as far as racing goes, those are his results. But he's got at least 10 more seasons in front of him, so I think we'll see him winning something big. Maybe today, maybe Liège will come his way. But Schumacher, different build altogether. If it came to a sprint, it might be for him. But you have to remember, the last kilometre is a nasty little climb. Strong men prevail. That's the one where it's so often decided. We have to ask the question, is Andy Schleck softening up the boys for Frank to come and take over, or is he looking for himself today? Well, CSC were very, very quiet until they sent out Alexander Kolovnev, and they've been taken over by Andy Schleck. This is Bettini. Not sure what's going on. It looks like he's shut down here. I've got a feeling the peloton might be coming back. Well, that's confirmed. They are, and he knew it. He made the move. He didn't cross the gap, and he decided to wait and play another card. 26 kilometers left. Not long now before we all get our first view of the Côte de Roche au Faucon. That'll be worth seeing. Cadel Evans has sent his riders to the front now. Excuse me, Jaroslav Popovic is up there. Well, just when they thought they got this race under control, they've allowed too many individual strongmen to get away from the peloton, so they're completely under pressure once again. Same organisation as the Tour de France, Liege, Bastogne, Liege. So if the cars look familiar, they should. They'll just change the decals and be in the Tour de France in July. Well, when we see all of the Silence Lotto riders on the front here, for years they've never had a rider to chase the overall victory of a Tour de France or any big stage race for that matter, but now they have, with Cadel Evans, as witnessed last year when he got second behind Alberto Contador, who won't be in the Tour de France this year, and this is a big about face by the organisation. These two are working well together. New leaders on the road, 25 kilometers from the finish. 2 official climbs plus the finishing climb to come. Well, we are right on the climb of Roche au Faucon now. I don't know where it is, so we'll find out with the riders. I wouldn't think Liège was just over the hill. We are still way out in the country. That was the 25 kilometers to go signs for the riders. You get some idea from the motorbike just how quick these boys are going. It is slightly downhill just now. We must be about to start this climb because according to the mileage charts here, the climb itself is just 1.5 kilometers long. Now peloton still got a lot of riders who've not done a lot of work down there except follow the wheels. I can understand how they feel. But now they're going to have to come and start the chase. It looks as though Schleck here has really opened the throttle. And he's hurting Schumacher, who's laid back off his back wheel on this very fast descent. What goes down must go up, and it will go up very steeply shortly. Probably no more than a mile now to the climb. 2 kilometers. This is the 94th running of Liège-Bastogne-Liège being enacted in these beautiful lanes. Not even a spectator here. Nice and peaceful, isn't it? There's Andy Schleck here, tries to show brother Frank he's not a bad rider himself. They're the best of friends, as brothers should be, but they're both coming to the Tour de France together this year. That could make for a very strong team for CSC. Frank just takes a quick breather behind Schumacher. Back up front now. The gap is just 21 seconds. 2 riders, but 2 good teams here will not be contributing to the chase now. And CSC have a number of choices to make. Should they bring back this group of 2? Gerolstein at 2 with David Rebellin taking the pressure off David Rebellin just now, while Schumacher makes his play. And we've also got Fabian Weckmann back there too, so they've got 2 more strong cards if necessary. Rebellin is a man of the Ardennes if ever there was one. He did the treble were 2004. Flesh Wallon and the big classics here, including Liege and the Amstel Gold Race. Different order in those days. The Amstel Gold Race used to end the classic season. Now it's the Liege Bastogne Liege. There's the River Maas. Whistles that are blowing. Direction is changing. Ominous, I would say. We're about to start the climb somewhere here. Onto the main road. 21 kilometers to go. 20 seconds the gap. We're heading to the Roche, or the Rock. Well, these boys are saving nothing now when they can't, can they? With a gap of only 20 seconds on a peloton of about 60, 70 riders at least. Now we'll just see just how strong. There's the peloton, top of our picture. They're coming to make that left turn over the river. Another one of these beautiful towns here. Just peeping out behind the houses. Can't tell from the helicopter who's doing the chasing, but I suspect it is Silence Lotto. Now this will be the start of the climb as far as I know. "21 kilometers to go. And it looks like Stefan Schumacher is feeling frisky. Oh, so somebody else here. Well, this is a bet. It could well be Cadel Evans has launched an attack here. That looks like the style of Cadel Evans, and he's gone off the front at the start of the climb. Bettini's up on the far left. David Rebellin is right there in the centre. Pierre Roland, bless him, has just lost contact at the back on the climb here. If anybody deserves a round of applause, it's Pierre Roland now. Well, this, I think, pretty certainly it's either Popovic or Evans. My monitor's not giving me a clear image, but I think it's Cadel Evans there. And in fact, the rider going off the back is Dario Cioni, Evans' teammate. Meanwhile, this is Andy Schleck still setting the pace. Schumacher seems to think they're coming back at them, but this is quite a hard climb, but it hasn't really reared up ugly like yet. Although the peloton itself is getting smaller and smaller, but there's still a lot of strong men. And this is an attack now from Sonia Duval coming up. Well, we'll see who this is, because again, it's Sonia Duval who've launched quite a strong move. This is life at the back, and it's not too pleasant now. Very unusual to see a 0 on a number. But the rider's slipping off the back there. I think it was actually 76. It'll be Joseph Jouffe, who's just dropped off. And now, unfortunately, we're seeing the demise here of Stefan Schumacher as the race gets very, very difficult just at this point. Look how narrow the road has become. It's got little ditches on the either side of it, and Schumacher looks as though he can't handle Andy Schleck. Schleck is going for gold here at 20 kilometers to go. Well, that was an attack that we saw from Sonia Duval, but now we're seeing Rodriguez here of Spain go clear at 20 kilometers to go too. And that's a very good move from the Spanish climber as he powers from the field and very quickly reaches Stefan Schumacher. But the whole field has been revitalized by that move by Rodriguez. We've got someone doing a lot of work there for Rabobank. The flag of Luxembourg waved in the face of Andy Schleck. A little bit of cracking here by Denis Menchov. That's a bit of a surprise. Denis Menchov will go to the Tour de France among the favourites. There's a little bit of way to go for his top form. This is turning out to be a very, very hard climb indeed, so the riders were right. The surface is good, but it is quite steep. Look at the valley below now, and Schleck is being joined by the ever-aggressive Rodriguez. And guess who he's bringing up? He's bringing brother Frank. That's amazing. So Frank was waiting for someone to counter his brother's move and go along as the passenger. Not much of a gain over the field, though. And that looks like it might well be David Rebellin, who's hooked up at the back. You can't keep that man out of the Ardennes. So we've got both Schlecks up here now. Frank taking over from Andy, I hope. But it looks like it. Rodriguez has opened the gap, but it's not over yet. There's still more to come across this gap as they go over the top, more or less, of the Roche aux Faucons. 19 kilometres. That was a long kilometre, that one. Virtually the length of the climb, plus a bit. We're heading out towards the Côte de Saint-Nicolas now. A little bit of a ride before we get there because we cross Liege. Unhitched at the back now. It looks as though we're losing Cofidis Maxime Montfort, the Belgian rider here, who also knows the roads around this locality. That was Andrea Tonti, the quick step also there, falling back. Meanwhile, it's the Schleck boys driving on the front now. I should give them different coloured crash helmets or something. And it looks as though Frank is congratulating Andy and saying, we're staying with this now, we're riding. Counter move. Looks to me as though it could well be Damiano Cunego down there. And that's certainly Christian Fanberger. And that, to me, looks as though it could be Cadel Evans. So those would be the three riders trying to reach them now. They should have really gone with the group, but obviously they couldn't on the climb. Now they've got to bridge the gap, and that gap has grown very, very rapidly here because the two Schlecks spoke to each other. And I'm sure they said, we're going. Because look at this now. Rodriguez was the man that caused the bridge, which Frank was delighted for. Frank is now pacemaking here at the front. This is a very, very strong group now. Rebellin has come across, as we saw. Joaquin Rodriguez, who also can sprint. Little flick of the arm from Andy. Rebellin will do just enough at the moment, I think, till he's sure which way this break is going. Forward or back to the peloton. 18 kilometres to go. Advantage Rebellin. He knows all of these roads. He's got the reputation in Liège. Frank Schleck was third last year. Well, this is a very, very select group of top bike riders now. They've certainly waited a long time today to show their real colours. But boxing gloves are on now. Champion of Spain, Rodriguez here. And in fact, that's Alejandro Valverde, number 11. Sometimes from a distance, those Silence Lotto colours and Case de Pan look exactly alike, but Valverde, former winner, is right there. And there's no Cadel Evans. So that was the move by Rodriguez to bring his captain up to these riders here and form the break. It's a very solid break now with the Schlecks, Valverde, Rebellin, Rodriguez. CSC have two possible cards. Case de Pern have got two cards. This is the chase group. Oh, we were right. Evans is in it. Fanberger, Cunego. And Christian Fanberger again showing us he's a developing rider for Team Barlow World. We were a bit of a revelation last year. A wild-card entry into the Tour de France, came out with Robbie Hunter winning a stage and getting second in the points competition. King of the Mountains in Mauricio Solar, and a stage win for him as well. So there'll be no prizes for guessing they'll be back in the Tour de France this year. But of course there'll be a marked team now. Just 17 kilometres to go, still only 25 seconds. There's opportunity for others to cross this gap. And that is a very, very small peloton now. Perhaps 25, maybe 30 riders left in Liège, Bastogne, Liège, hunting the big prize. Cadel Evans, Fanberger's just happy to sit on him. Cunego doesn't know where to go forwards or wait. Tinkoff setting the pace from the peloton. That's Nibali in second place for Liege. We've also got Bettini on his wheel. Not too sure who the Tinkoff rider is. Kirienka, perhaps, the Belarus rider. Well, it looks as though Rodriguez did his job and has gone back to the chase group. Well, if he gets into this group, he certainly won't be helping them, because he's done what he wanted to do, and that's get Valverde up there with a huge effort across the gap. And now he's dropped back to annoy this group. There's the leaders on the left of our picture. The two Schlecks, Rebellin, Valverde. Two former winners, 3 podium finishes in a select group of 4. Matthew Lloyd still happy to ride at the front. What a great race he's having. Well, they're saying the chasing group now is at 25 seconds. We're showing 16, so they're losing ground. Thomas Dekker coming round a little bit. Downtown Liege now. We'll see the famous football stadium here in Liege. Standard Liège as we race across the city and out the other side, and that's where we'll find the Côte de Saint-Nicolas. These 4 riders, they haven't got a winning gap yet, but they're certainly in the advantage position. And the CSC have got 2 cards to play here, because we've lost the Case d'Apan rider, Rodriguez. So sooner or later, one of these Schlecks will attack. For my money, I would reckon Andy will launch an attack again if he's recovered from the move. And that will cause a reaction from Valverde and from Rebellin, which might give Frank Schleck the chance to improve on 3rd place from last year. No too much action coming from behind. They're obviously racing hard, but they're not closing that gap down just yet. Valverde coming off a win earlier this month in Paris-Camembert, which is a semi-classic in France. We never see it on television, but it seems to be a nice race. And he also won the Tour of Murcia in March in Spain. It's a big win for him there. He won that by virtual winning the time trial stage on stage number 4. So he's helping himself to some good results. But now he's thinking of the Tour de France. It looks as though he will go to ride the Dauphiné Libre race as his final preparation race for the Tour de France this year. They choose either the Dauphiné or the Tour de Suisse, which slightly overlaps, so you can't ride both, not that you want to. And nice to see Cunego hitting form at the right moment as well. And he's not riding the Giro d'Italia next month, because he's thinking of the Tour de France this year. Well, this is Vladimir Milojevich now on the front for Liquigas. So they've got 2 riders down there, possibly 3 right on the sharp end of the race. Pelazzotti and Nibali also there. They're really moving now, these riders, but the gaps aren't opening. Just 30 seconds now to this big chase group of Vanberger, champion of Austria, Cunego, Evans driving. Not a lot of people helping out Cadel Evans right now. That's the trouble when you build yourself a reputation. You become heavily marked. But they're working with him just now. Vanberger goes through. Rodriguez, not surprisingly, checking the tickets and not going anywhere. Not while his top man Valverde has made the split, thanks to his big effort there on that climb. I must say the Spanish champions jersey is one of the most colourful jerseys in the pro peloton. Always nice to see, easy to pick out. Just one win for Joaquim Rodriguez this year. He won the 3rd stage at Tirreno Adriatico, so he started off the season well. He was 8th last week in the Amstel Gold Race, and he's also been 8th midweek in the Flèche Wallonne. Well, currently he's riding about 8th in Liège, Bastogne Liège, come to think of it, with these 4 guys up front. 12 kilometres, 7 miles, 2 small climbs left, 1 officially. 31 seconds is the gap. It's holding. This is Frank at the back just for the moment. Knows the way in now, does Frank. He was third last year. Danilo De Luca not here to defend, so we'll see. A bit of a counter move here, and it's coming, I think, from the Tinkoff rider Evgeny Petrov. It is Evgeny Petrov who's gone clear. Good time trialist, known for his time trialing ability, and he's going to try and cross the gap as we head down towards the main crossing of the city. So 11 kilometers to go. These boys are beginning to think here now how to win this race. The rider who has won and finished second last year, Valverde, is in the escape. These three riders on the same descent, but half a minute further back. Rodriguez just enjoying his role now. No effort required, keeping an eye on the chase behind. We haven't got a time check on the chase behind, but they can't be very far back there. Standard Liège Football Club. As we run past the stadium. Then you know it's not far to the finish once we're over the river. Rebellin, he's going to have to work out what to do with these riders now. CSC surely have got the aces at 10 kilometers to go. You see, the gaps are being opened here occasionally because the Schlecks are trying to work out something for themselves. Andy is currently here at the back, and is he going to go for it up the inside? He is. This is the weaker, and it had to be Andy to do it, I think. Coming, he's now going to look at everybody else and shut down. Well, that had to come. It's a perfect tactic. And Team CSC have got two cards. When you've got two men in four, you expect to deliver the winner at the end of the day. But you're leaving two quality bike riders here in Valverde and Rebellin. They're left to work together for the moment. Two former winners now having to chase on Andy Schleck, who's never won this race before. Not absolutely sure. It might even be the first time he's ridden the Liège-Bastogne Liège. 9 kilometers over the river, heading towards the hills of the other side. And that's a super move by Schleck. It was red, it had to come. Time for Frank to enjoy the back seat now, have a drink. Let's see how we develop it. And the gap going up over the Cadel Evans group at 43 seconds. I don't think they're going to come over. This might well be the winning move right now. And really, it was formulated by that terrific attack by Joaquim Rodriguez to get Valverde and co across. Well, Andy Schleck, the lone figure now. A little bit of a flat as we race round the back doubles here. We're in an area which is basically sort of Italian town here around this area. You'll see the Italian flags as we race towards the finish. Little Italy. And they've got one Italian to cheer, two from Luxembourg, and a great rider from Spain. This is the second group. They're still together, no change here. Same man at the back. Evans doing more than his fair share of work, but it's good to see he's got good form going into the early stage races. And when you get on the road like this, twists and turns, narrow roads, picture stops because the camera's gone under the bridge, but that's normal. These are terrific racing roads if you're on your own, like Schleck is right now. Every corner gets you out of sight. It depresses the chase. And he certainly is waiting for no one there, just checking his turn with his knee out. It's a bit early to dream yet, Andy, but it's only 8 kilometers to go. Chopping off those corners, he's trying to find the shortest way to the finishing line. There's the Italian flag, they never let you down. But this man's from Luxembourg here now, and the two great riders along with Kim Kirken as well, who's also from Luxembourg, and Benoit Joachim. They've got one or two great bike riders like little Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, course, the most famous man ever to come out of Luxembourg was Charlie Gaulle, the Angel of the Mountains. Sadly no longer with us. At 7 kilometers to go, Andy Schleck. It's hurting, this, his earlier breakaway. I think he's feeling that now. It's not over yet. Rebellin is having to do a lot of work. Valverde not bothering to help him quite as much as I would have thought. There's really no anxiety amongst those two at all. Frank will feel he's in control of them right now, while brother is up the road. This is the same twisting back street here as we head towards the Côte de Saint-Nicolas, which is about now. And there's the crowd all cheering along the roadside here, and they're seeing this man from Luxembourg lead Liege, Bastogne, Liege onto the climb. It's the last official climb, but there is a small climb, brilliant for tactics, which comes just before the last kilometre. This is the second group on the road with Rodriguez. Will be the third group now, I suppose, because this man's leading the race by himself. Tête de la course, head of the race. 7 kilometres. It's not far. And with every one of those pedal revs as Schleck looks down, I'm sure he's thinking to himself, just got one more climb to come. We're helping him. We've taken a kilometre off. We're down to 6. He's looking over. The legs are probably screaming with pain. And I would think he probably will see the chase here, because there they are, the same straight up the Saint-Nicolas. Oh dear, and there he is up there. So they're right on him here. That hasn't really got away at all. And it's Rebellin who has done all this, because I don't think Valverde's helped out. Remember, Valverde's one of those rare climbers who can sprint and time trial. That's why he'll go into the Tour de France as possibly joint favourite, or certainly second favourite to Cadel Evans this year. And it looks as though his form is now coming back good. Well, it looks as though it's all going to be down to Frank if they haul back Andy. Now, will Frank try to go alone? If he does, he'll destroy Andy. I would have thought that Rebellin would have helped out and just dropped back here and made Valverde take up some of the riding. Because surely, if it goes like this, he's carrying one of these two at the back to victory. It's all Rebellin as he drags them up. He's almost at home here in Little Italy. They'll be shouting his name, bet on it. But here comes Frank, and it had to come as they catch Andy. Frank delivers the blow. But look at the strength of Rebellin. He didn't even take a second beat. He was right onto Frank. He must have known that's what would happen. Well, he's destroyed as we thought. Poor old Andy. Can he hang on for fourth? That's up to him now. But Frank here is looking for the win. But you know, I think this was a big effort by Frank Schleck, and it has not dislodged the other two. How long can he keep this attack up? It was all pre-planned, but he hasn't opened up anything. In fact, that attack has not worked. He may as well ease back, because now he looks to see what's happened, and they're there, so he's eased back now. Well, I think that was Frank Schleck's best shot, and it didn't take him anywhere. David Rebellin, absolutely superb. But I can't see why he's doing it. Second kick by Frank Schleck. A little bit surprised he found the legs for that one, but he's gone again. And again, causing a little bit of an effort from Alejandro Valverde, but I think it's all answered. This is the top of the Côte. 5 kilometres to go now. Just one small ripple, and it could be decisive for these three. Now, have they opted for a sprint finish? Will Andy Schleck close the gap? He'll certainly try to. This is the group behind Schleck, still led by Vanberger. Rodriguez just moving through to mark Vanberger now. Cadel Evans has dropped back behind Rodriguez. And the three up front, they just won't help David Rebellin, will they? He's been superb. He's destroyed the hopes of everybody so far. But in all honesty, Valverde has now finally gone through to the front here. He won't want to be there, of course. We can't see anybody at the front. I think they've opted for a sprint finish. Well, that's always a risky thing because of the little rise towards the line. It will soon be 4 kilometres to go now. David Rebellin looks over his shoulder to his left. Valverde just riding quite casually, second last year. Winner the year before, taking a good look into the eyes of David Rebellin there. Rebellin, it might be a trick of the cameras, looks a little bit heavy to me this year, but he's certainly riding well. His record in the Classics, second to none this year, fourth in Milan San Remo, sixth in the Flèche Wallonne, fourth in the Amstel Gold. Those are results, and he's gone again, but he's given away an awful lot of energy today. He won Flèche Wallonne last year, fifth in this event, second in the Amstel Gold. You can't hold him back. 4 kilometers to go, and Evans has found his second wind here. Oh, Alejandro Valverde has also found his legs now. He's prepared to drive here. He's eliminated at least one of them with Andy Schleck. Don't know where poor Andy's gone now. It looks as though he's at 26 seconds. Here he is. But if there's any finessing, then Andy will get back into that group. And there could well be as we get up towards the finishing line, because the three of them now seem pretty well balanced. Frank Schleck after two good attacks, but he didn't do the job. He may have opted for a sprint. That's about the spread we've seen now. Andy in the middle, racing for fourth place just at the moment. Rebellin at 3 kilometers to go. Still driving on, starts to rise again now. If your legs feel good, you could make a jump for the finish any minute. Alejandro Valverde, remember, the rider that beat Lance Armstrong to the top of Courchevel. He shows us he can sprint at the end of a tough day, that's for sure. The two previous winners sitting at the front now, with the man that finished third last year, Schleck, right behind them. Process of elimination has come to this, because this race only really came alive once they were over the Côte de la Redoute. They were all waiting. Where's my brother? 25 seconds is the answer to that. He's not going to get back here today. It'll shortly be 2 kilometers to go. Slight downhill. We've still got the rise to come. Well, David Rebellin just seems content to pace these riders to the line. For me, he's committing suicide, but maybe he's stronger than we know. He certainly answered that move by Frank Schleck with ease. 3 kilometers now for the three chasers behind Andy. Time has gone for them. They're a minute and 11 back. There might still be riders coming up from the peloton. They've got to watch it. Frank has manoeuvred himself into the best seat here, having done his two attacks. Is he going to try another one, or is he going to wait for the sprint? All podium places now, but they only want the win. And David Rebellin just drives on. Well, if it was anybody but Rebellin, with the reputation he's got, you would say this was a very naive way to finish Liege, Bastogne, Liege. But maybe Rebellin knows something else. There's a souvenir for number 26 on the main street. It's like a track finish, isn't it? I mean, Valverde's looking around. He's never resting. He's just making sure he doesn't trust Frank Schleck one iota here. He's expecting him. He's got him boxed in nicely now behind Rebellin. Frank will have to brake and pull out and come up the other shoulder, if that's his plan. Rebellin doesn't look at anybody, just keeps the pace. Well, if I were a betting man now, put your money on the man in black, because he seems to be the most alert. He's not doing any of the pacemaking, and he packs a sprint. And there is the last kilometre, and immediately Valverde goes right alongside the shoulder. This is a horrible drag now. It is possible to get clear on here, but to me, these boys have opted for a sprint. And that surely is going to hand the race to Alejandro Valverde. He's got both them pinned over and they're slowing down a little bit. Here comes Andy Schleck now. If they do slow down, Andy will close. The worried look on the face of David Rebellin, the rather contented look on the face of Valverde, as if he's licking his lips there, waiting for the moment. Now, Frank Schleck here is causing him to look the other way, and he's gone back again. Can't find you. Where are you? So Schleck is going to come from the back. He's going to open the sprint here, almost certainly. There must be around 500 metres here. We've got a left turn into the main street to see the finishing line, but they'll be gone by then. Schleck is waiting as long as he feels he can here, but I think a longer sprint will give him more chance than a short sprint, because Valverde is quite explosive. David Rebellin isn't a sprinter, but he is a very, very strong rider. And they've made light work of this climb because they haven't raced it. Can't see any meterage to go on the boards at all. There's the top of the climb, and then we turn into the finishing line, which comes very quickly. 500 metres. Still no move. They're playing into the hands of Valverde if they don't make a move. And Frank really has got himself boxed in. It's very good riding by Valverde. He's got both his rivals up on the barriers here. Maybe he'll turn his attention to track cycling one day. And Valverde knows now it is most certainly going to be a sprint finish, but who is going to start it? Rebellin has led all the way, but he hasn't used a lot of energy on the way up the hill. Frank's got to go first. He's moved into position now. Valverde spotted it. He'll wait for Valverde to look away next time and jump, I'm sure of that, because now they can see the finishing line here. And they're almost coming up to the line, but it's Valverde who's gone. Frank Schleck never made the move, and right behind him, Rebellin has got the strength to hold on, but he'll never get over the top of Alejandro Valverde, who wins Liège-Bastogne-Liège for the second time in 3 years, and he was second last year as well. That's a big result for Alejandro Valverde, and then it's going to be Andy Schleck who will hang on here for fourth place. A great result for the younger of the two brothers. Just a careful look over his shoulder to make sure nobody's creeping up from the third chase group as Andy Schleck comes home in fourth, and it looks as though Christian Vanberger has slipped away there and he's going to get fifth if he can hang on. That's a great result for Christian Vanberger, the champion of Austria, as he also comes up to the line, and he'll beat there, and that is actually a finish there by somebody, and it must be Thomas Decker who's come home in sixth. He must have reached them on the climb. Well, there's the joy on the face of the Schlecks, Andy and Frank, but outmaneuvered by the strength of one man from Spain today. And there's the peloton coming in, led home by Bettini. What's left of it, that is. And as the riders go in, they're trying to get the Schlecks up towards the podium. And the field's still coming in, well split up on that last climb today. But nonetheless, it was a very, very good finale today, and a great winner there in Alejandro Valverde. The Schlecks did everything right, but they didn't have it in the end in their body. Here it is again now. Schleck appeared to be going to open up the sprint, but he could never get out of that box he put himself into. And then Valverde himself took it on once he saw the finishing line. Tremendously strong man. Great time trial rider, great climber, and as we always knew, a very, very strong sprinter when conditions are perfect. And today they were perfect for Valverde, who finishes ahead of Rebellin. And in third place, again for a second year, is Frank Schleck.
Je sais pas par l'atterri. Je sais pas par l'atterri. Tu sais par l'atterri. Oui. Où est le vainqueur? Je suis à côté. Voilà, il est ici. Voilà. C'est le 11, voilà. Tu le suis, tu le suis.
All right, well, while Valverde goes and gets ready for that podium, let's have a look at the result. 6 3/4 hours, the length of the race today in beautiful spring-like conditions. Valverde immensely strong, finishing ahead of David Rebellin, who's been there before, in second. Frank Schleck in third place for the second year. Brother Andy this time showed great skills but didn't have quite the strength. He finished in fourth. An excellent result for Christian Vanberger, the champion of Austria, and particularly for his team Barlow World from South Africa. And Thomas Dekker there in the 6th place finish. He rode well at last this year, so let's hope he's going to have a good season. Just have a look once again at the finish here. From the helicopter, it was a clear win, wasn't it? There was nobody ever going to come back to Alejandro Valverde once that sprint started today. Once you're up that little rise and you're first around that corner, that's usually the way you get across the finishing line. So now I think we can get down to the podium and see Valverde. And there he is, saluting the crowd, and I think feeling very proud of his performance today, Alejandro Valverde. He was strong. He'll go and thank his teammate and champion of Spain, no doubt about that, Joaquin Rodriguez, today for getting him across that gap at the crucial moment of the race when Cadel Evans missed that move. Otherwise it might have been yet another story. But the top three, Valverde, on the left there David Rebellin, and on the right is Frank Schleck for Team CSC. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the 94th running of Liege-Bastogne-Liège. The classic season's now behind us, but you bet your life there's plenty more action to come here on World Cycling Production videos. Until the next time though, I'm Phil Liggett saying I'll see you again. Look forward to a great continuation of the 2008 season. See you soon. Bye.